The alarm bells rang across Station Alpha 7, the largest monitoring post in the galaxy. Commander Zexhai dropped his morning drink and rushed to the main control room. His 6 legs carried him faster than he had moved in years. "Report!" he shouted as he burst through the doors. Lieutenant Kayla turned from her screen, her blue face pale with confusion. "Sir, we have a problem. A big problem." Zexhai looked at the massive display showing the galaxy map. Thousands of colored dots marked the positions of ships from hundreds of different species. Each color meant a different race. The Valkyrians showed as red dots, over 50,000 of them. The Zephyrians were blue, nearly 40,000 ships. Even the smallest known species had at least 500 vessels. But there was something wrong with the yellow dots that marked human ships. "How many human ships do our sensors show?" Zexhai asked, though he already feared the answer. "One, sir. Just one." Zexhai stared at the screen. In all his years of service, he had never seen anything like this. Every species that joined the Galactic Trade Federation had fleets. Big fleets. It was the most basic requirement for space travel. "Check the sensors again," he ordered. Kayla's fingers moved quickly across her control panel. "I've run the scan 5 times, sir. The result is always the same. One human ship. The UES Endeavor." The commander felt his stomach twist. This made no sense. Humans had been members of the Federation for 3 years. They had passed all the tests. They had shown they could travel between stars. But how could they do it with just one ship? "Contact Ambassador Thrain immediately," Zexhai said. "We need to call an emergency council meeting." Within hours, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council filled with representatives from across the galaxy. The chamber was huge, designed to hold beings of all shapes and sizes. Some delegates floated in water tanks. Others needed special breathing equipment. A few were just glowing balls of energy. Ambassador Thrain, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms, called the meeting to order. "We are here to discuss a serious matter. The humans." A wave of whispers filled the hall. The human representative, Captain Sarah Chen, sat in the small section reserved for her species. She looked confused by all the attention. "The monitoring stations have discovered something disturbing," Thrain continued. "Humans appear to have only one starship. This has never happened before in the history of the Federation." Captain Chen stood up. She was a small woman compared to most of the other delegates, but she spoke with a clear, strong voice. "Is there a problem with having one ship?" The question caused an uproar. Delegates turned to each other, talking loudly in dozens of different languages. Some laughed. Others looked angry. Admiral Korax of the Zephyrian Empire stood up. He was 7 feet tall and covered in armor. "One ship? How do you patrol your territory? How do you defend your colonies? How do you trade with other worlds? Won't we manage?" Captain Chen said simply. This answer made the noise even louder. Ambassador Yilix of the Crystal People rang her bell-like voice above the crowd. "This is impossible. My people have 15,000 ships, and we still struggle to cover our space. How can humans do anything with one vessel?" Captain Chen waited for the room to quiet down. "Perhaps you don't understand how humans work. We do things differently than other species." "Differently?" Admiral Korax laughed, a sound like metal scraping stone. "There is only one way to control space. With numbers, with power, with many ships." "Maybe," Captain Chen said. "But humans have always found their own path." Ambassador Thrain raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "Captain Chen, you must understand our concern. Every species in this Federation has proven their ability to operate in space with large fleets. The smallest member has 500 ships, you have 1. This suggests that humans are not truly a spacefaring people." "What are you saying?" Captain Chen asked, though her voice remained calm. "We are questioning whether humans belong in this Federation," Thrain said. "Perhaps Earth should be classified as a pre-spaceflight world." Captain Chen felt the weight of those words. Being removed from the Federation would cut Earth off from all galactic trade and knowledge. Humanity would be alone again. "I request permission to address the full council," she said. "About what?" Admiral Korax demanded. About why humans only need one ship to do what your thousands cannot. The chamber fell silent. No one had ever made such a bold claim before. Ambassador Thrain looked around the room, seeing the curious faces of hundreds of delegates. "Very well," he said finally. "You have one solar cycle to present your case. If you cannot prove that humanity deserves its place in this federation, we will vote to remove you." Captain Chen nodded. "One day is all I need." As the meeting ended, and delegates began to leave, small groups formed around the chamber. Most were already planning to vote against the humans. How could one ship possibly prove anything? Captain Chen walked alone back to her quarters. She activated her communication device and sent a message to the Endeavor, which waited in orbit around the station. "This is Captain Chen to Endeavor. We have a situation. Prepare for full demonstration protocols." The voice of her first officer, Commander Rodriguez, came through clearly. "What kind of demonstration, Captain?" "The kind that shows them what humans are really made of," she said. "Contact Earth. Tell them we might need to explain our entire philosophy of space exploration in the next 24 hours. "Understood, Captain. The crew is ready." Chen looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere among them was Earth, the small blue world that had sent out just one ship to represent all of humanity. Tomorrow she would have to prove that one ship was enough. She thought about all the human explorers who had come before. Magellan had crossed Earth's oceans with just 5 ships. Lewis and Clark had explored an entire continent with 30 people. Armstrong had reached the moon with a crew of 3. Humans had always done more with less. Tomorrow she would show the galaxy why that was humanity's greatest strength. In the Great Chamber, the delegates continued to talk. Most were certain the humans would fail. Some felt sorry for the small species that was about to lose its place among the stars. A few were curious about what Captain Chen would say. None of them could imagine what the next day would bring. None of them understood that they were about to witness something that would change the galaxy forever. The mystery of the single human ship was about to be solved, and the solution would shock everyone. The Great Chamber was packed. Word had spread across the station that the human would try to defend her species today. Many delegates came just to watch what they thought would be an easy defeat. Others came out of curiosity. Captain Chen walked to the center of the chamber. She carried only a small device in her hands. No notes, no grand presentation materials, just herself and her words. "Thank you for this chance to speak," she began. "I want to start with a simple question. What do you know about human exploration?" The chamber was quiet. Most delegates knew very little about human history. Earth was far from the main trade routes, and humans had only recently joined the galaxy. Chen activated her device. A hologram appeared above her head, showing an old sailing ship on a blue ocean. "This is Ferdinand Magellan's ship, the Victoria. In the year 1519 by Earth's calendar, Magellan set out to sail around our entire world. He had 5 ships and 270 men. The hologram changed to show a map of Earth. Magellan's crew became the first humans to circle their planet. They proved that all the world's oceans were connected. They did this with 5 small wooden ships." Ambassador Thrain looked confused. "What does this have to do with space travel?" "Everything," Chen said. The hologram changed again, showing 2 men walking across vast grasslands. These are Lewis and Clark. With just 30 people, they crossed an entire continent. They mapped thousands of miles of unknown land. They made contact with dozens of different tribes. They brought back knowledge that changed how humans understood their world. Admiral Korax shifted in his seat. "These are interesting stories, but they prove nothing about space." Chen smiled. "Don't they?" The hologram showed a small spacecraft landing on a gray, dusty surface. "This is the Apollo 11 landing. 3 humans traveled to Earth's moon. Just 3 people in one small ship. They took the first steps on another world." She paused, letting the image sink in. "Every great human exploration has started small. We don't send 1,000 ships to explore. We send the right people with the right tools." The hologram disappeared. Jen looked around the chamber. "You want to know why humans only have one ship? Because we don't need more. We need better." Delegate Yilix rang her crystal voice. "Impossible. Space is vast. One ship cannot cover even one star system properly. Can't it?" Chen activated her communicator. "Endeavor, please join us in the chamber." High above the station, the UES Endeavour began to change. What had looked like a simple research vessel started to unfold. Sections extended from the main hull. New modules appeared. The ship grew larger and more complex. On the screens around the chamber, the delegates watched in amazement. The Endeavour wasn't just one ship. It was dozens of ships connected together. But that wasn't the most surprising part. "Endeavour to Captain Chen," came a voice over the speakers. "We're ready for configuration demonstration." "Show them what we can do," Chen said. The ship continued to change. Part of it became a diplomatic station with docking bays for different species. Another section turned into a massive laboratory with equipment the delegates had never seen before. A third area became a cultural center with theaters, art galleries, and meeting spaces. "How is this possible?" whispered Commander Vex of the Aquatic Alliance. "Human engineering," Chen said. "We call it adaptive architecture. The Endeavour isn't just a ship. It's whatever we need it to be. Research station, hospital, factory, embassy, school. It can reconfigure itself in hours." But the delegates were about to see something even more impressive. As they watched, the Endeavour's docking bay opened. Small shuttles began to fly out. But these weren't carrying cargo or supplies. They were carrying people. Hundreds of people. "The Endeavour doesn't just have a crew," Chen explained. "It has a community. 500 humans live and work on that ship. Scientists, doctors, engineers, teachers, artists, farmers, musicians, diplomats, and explorers." The shuttles reached the station and docked. Soon humans began entering the chamber. But they didn't just stand behind Captain Chen. They spread out across the room, walking up to different delegates. A human woman approached Ambassador Thrain. "Hello," she said in his language. "I'm Dr. Sarah Kim. I study alien biology. I'd love to learn about your species." A human man walked up to the Crystal Peoples section. He pulled out a musical instrument and began to play. The sound matched the crystal being's natural harmony perfectly. Across the chamber, humans were making contact. They spoke different alien languages. They understood different customs. They adapted to each species they met. Admiral Corax watched in shock as a young human boy approached him. The child showed no fear of the massive warrior. "Are you really from a warrior planet?" the boy asked with excitement. "That's so cool. Can you tell me about honor codes?" What are you doing?" Corax asked. Captain Chen smiled. "What humans do best. We adapt, we learn, we connect." The chamber filled with the sounds of conversation. Humans and aliens were talking, laughing, sharing ideas. In just minutes, barriers that had existed for centuries were falling. "This is what one human ship can do," Chen said, her voice carrying over the noise. "We don't explore space to conquer it. We explore it to understand it, to become part of it." She gestured to her people. "Every human on the Endeavour can do at least 3 different jobs. Our doctors are also teachers. Our engineers are also artists. Our diplomats are also farmers. We don't just survive in space. We live there." Ambassador Yilix had been listening to a human child sing in perfect crystal harmony. "How did she learn our music so quickly?" "Because that's what humans do," Chen said. "We listen. We learn. We adapt. You have 15,000 ships because you need 15,000 ships. We have one ship because one ship, crewed by humans, can do anything." The demonstration continued for hours. Humans showed they could work in any environment. They could communicate with any species. They could solve problems no one had thought of before. As the day ended, the delegates sat in stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about space exploration had been challenged. "Tomorrow," Captain Chen said, "I'd like to show you what the Endeavour can really do. Not just change shape, but change lives." She looked around the chamber at hundreds of amazed faces. The question isn't whether humans belong in this federation. The question is whether the Federation is ready for what humans can offer. As the humans returned to their ship, the delegates remained behind, talking quietly among themselves. For the first time in Federation history, they had seen something completely new. One ship, one crew, infinite possibilities. The mystery was beginning to make sense, and it was more incredible than anyone had imagined. The emergency session began at dawn. The delegates had spent all night arguing about what they had seen. Some were impressed, others remained doubtful. A few were worried about what this new approach to space exploration might mean. Admiral Corax stood at the center of the chamber. "The humans have shown us tricks, clever engineering and friendly people, but space exploration is not about making friends. It's about solving real problems. Many delegates nodded in agreement. Pretty demonstrations were one thing. Real challenges were something else. Ambassador Thrain called for order. Captain Chen, the Council has decided to test your claims. We have a situation that requires immediate attention. If humans are truly as capable as you say, you should be able to help. Captain Chen stood calmly. What's the situation? The Helix Nebula crisis, Thrain said. A wave of concerned murmurs filled the chamber. Every delegate knew about the Helix Nebula. It was one of the most dangerous places in known space. Admiral Corax smiled grimly. 3 different colonies are trapped in a collapsing stellar nursery. The gravitational forces are tearing the region apart. All 3 colonies will be destroyed within 1 week. Captain Chen listened carefully. Tell me about the colonies. The first is a Shalnari settlement, Thrain explained. They are crystalline beings who live in structures made of living crystal. Their environment requires specific mineral compositions and electromagnetic fields. The second colony belongs to the Anthropics, Admiral Corax continued. They are beings of living gas. They exist in contained atmospheric bubbles. Any solid contact destroys them. The third is a Nexus collective outpost, Thrain finished. Pure artificial intelligence. They exist as data patterns in quantum computer networks. Captain Chen nodded slowly. 3 completely different types of life. 3 completely different rescue requirements. Exactly, Admiral Corax said. No single species can help all 3. The Valkyrians could maybe rescue the Shalnari, but our ships would destroy the anthropic gas beings just by getting close. The Technical Alliance could save the Nexus mines, but their equipment would interfere with Shalnari crystal growth. Ambassador Yilix added, We have tried combined operations. 7 different species working together. Every attempt has failed. The environments needed for each rescue conflict with each other. The chamber waited. This was the perfect test. An impossible situation that had defeated the combined fleets of multiple species. If humans could solve this with 1 ship, it would prove everything Captain Chen had claimed. If they failed, it would show that human adaptability had limits. How much time do we have? Chen asked. The nebula will collapse completely in 6 days, Thrain said. But the rescue operation would need to begin within 72 hours to be successful. Captain Chen looked thoughtful. 72 hours to save 3 completely different species from a collapsing star formation. It's impossible, Admiral Corax said flatly. We've had our best minds working on this for months. There is no solution that works for all 3 colonies. Captain Chen activated her communicator. Endeavor, did you monitor the briefing? Yes, Captain, came Commander Rodriguez's voice. We've been analyzing the data streams. It's a complex situation. Can we do it? There was a pause. Then Rodriguez spoke with confidence. Give us 72 hours. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Had the human just accepted an impossible mission without even asking for help? Captain Chen, Ambassador Thrain said carefully, perhaps you don't understand the scope of this challenge. Previous rescue attempts have used fleets of hundreds of ships, thousands of specialists, the best technology from multiple civilizations. I understand perfectly, Chen replied. You've been trying to solve 3 different problems with 3 different approaches. That's why it hasn't worked. Admiral Corax leaned forward. What do you mean? You're thinking like separate species. We think like humans. To us, this isn't 3 different problems. It's one complex situation that needs one adaptive solution. She turned to address the full chamber. The Endeavor will depart for the Helix Nebula in 2 hours. We'll have a rescue plan ready by the time we arrive. And if you fail? Admiral Corax asked. Captain Chen met his gaze. Then 3 colonies die and you can remove humanity from the Federation with a clear conscience. The chamber fell silent. The stakes couldn't be higher. 3 entire communities would live or die based on what 1 human ship could accomplish. As Captain Chen prepared to leave, delegate after delegate tried to offer help. Ship's equipment specialists. She turned them all down politely. Thank you, but this is something we need to do our way, she said. Within hours, the Endeavor was speeding toward the Helix Nebula. Behind it, the galaxy watched and waited. On board the ship, the crew worked with focused intensity. Dr. Kim studied Shalnari crystal biology. Engineer Thompson analyzed anthropic atmospheric requirements. Computer specialist Williams dove into Nexus collective data protocols, but they weren't working separately. They were working together, sharing everything they learned. Each discovery helped solve all three problems. The crystal beings need specific electromagnetic frequencies, Dr. Kim reported. Those same frequencies could help stabilize anthropic gas patterns, Thompson added. And the Nexus minds could use quantum resonance to coordinate both rescue operations, Williams concluded. Captain Chen smiled. This was how humans worked, not as separate specialists but as one connected team. As they approached the nebula, the Endeavour began to change again. One section became a crystal-growing laboratory, another transformed into a gas containment system, a third turned into a massive quantum computer array. But the real magic wasn't in the technology. It was in the crew. Humans were preparing to work directly with beings of living crystal, communicate with sentient gas clouds, and interface with pure artificial intelligence, all at the same time. The rescue operation was about to begin. Three species that had never been saved together were about to discover what one human ship could really do. In the vast chamber of the Galactic Council, delegates watched the approaching mission on their screens. Most expected failure, some hoped for success. None of them were prepared for what they were about to witness. The Endeavour entered the chaotic space of the Helix Nebula, where gravitational forces could tear apart entire fleets, but the small human ship moved through the chaos like it belonged there. The greatest rescue operation in galactic history was about to begin. The rescue began at dawn on the second day. All across the galaxy, beings watched their screens as the small human ship approached the first colony. The Shalnari settlement appeared on the main display. It looked like a city made of living rainbows. Crystal structures grew and shifted, creating patterns of incredible beauty. But the rainbow colors were fading. The crystals were dying as the nebula's chaos disrupted their electromagnetic fields. Endeavour to Shalnari Colony 7. Captain Chen's voice carried across space. This is the human rescue ship. We're here to help. The response came as a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Human ship, we are grateful you have come, but we fear you cannot save us. Our crystal matrix requires very specific conditions to survive transport. We understand. Dr. Kim's voice joined the conversation. We've been studying your biology. We think we can help. The Endeavour moved closer. Part of the ship detached and approached the crystal city. This section had been transformed into something never seen before. A mobile crystal garden. Inside, human-grown crystals provided the exact electromagnetic fields the Shalnari needed. Impossible, whispered Ambassador Yilix, watching from the council chamber. How did they grow compatible crystals so quickly? On board the Endeavour, Dr. Kim smiled as she worked alongside a Shalnari engineer. They weren't just rescuing the crystal beings. They were learning from each other. The Shalnari taught her new crystal-growing techniques. She shared human methods for adapting to changing environments. Your people are remarkable, the Shalnari engineer said, his voice like silver bells. You don't just copy our biology. You understand it and improve it. Meanwhile, the second part of the Endeavour approached the anthropic colony. These beings existed as living clouds of gas, beautiful and colorful, but incredibly fragile. Any solid matter could disrupt their delicate patterns and kill them instantly. Greetings, cloud dancers, came the voice of Engineer Thompson. We've prepared a special transport for you. The anthropic beings responded in voices like wind through mountains. Solid forms, we appreciate your attempt. But we have seen your ships. They are too dense, too harsh for our kind. Not this one, Thompson said. The transport that approached them was unlike anything the anthropics had ever seen. It wasn't solid at all. The humans had created a mobile atmospheric bubble, a spacecraft made of controlled gases that could carry other gas beings safely. How? The anthropic leader asked in amazement. We learned from you, Thompson replied. Your atmospheric data helped us understand how to make gas-based technology. We didn't force you to adapt to our ships. We adapted our ships to you. At the same time, the third section of the Endeavour reached the Nexus Collective Outpost. These artificial intelligences existed as pure information, but their quantum computers were failing as the nebula's energy disrupted their data streams. Attention, Nexus minds. Computer specialist Williams spoke into the quantum communication array. We're here to transfer you to safety. Human origin intelligence, came the response. A voice like mathematics made into sound. Your computing systems are primitive compared to our quantum networks. How do you propose to contain our consciousness? We don't contain it, Williams said. We join it. The watching delegates couldn't believe what happened next. Instead of trying to download the Nexus minds into human computers, the humans uploaded their own consciousness into the quantum network. Human and artificial intelligence merged temporarily, working together to solve the transfer problem. "This is madness," Admiral Corax muttered. "They're risking their own minds to save machines." But it was working. All three rescues were happening simultaneously. The Endeavor had become 3 different ships at once, each perfectly suited to saving a different type of life. As the hours passed, the watching galaxy witnessed something unprecedented. The crystal beings weren't just being evacuated, they were teaching humans how to grow stronger crystals. The gas beings weren't just being transported, they were sharing atmospheric technologies that could help human ships fly through any environment. The artificial intelligences weren't just being saved, they were learning human creativity and emotion. "They're not just rescuing those colonies," Ambassador Thrain said slowly. "They're creating partnerships." The rescue operation took 18 hours. When it was finished, all 3 colonies were safe. But more than that, they were changed. Each species had learned something from working with humans, and the humans had learned from all of them. Captain Chen's report to the Council was simple and direct. All colonies rescued successfully. No casualties. Mission complete, but the implications were enormous. For the first time in galactic history, someone had successfully rescued 3 incompatible species in one operation. And they had done it not by imposing solutions but by adapting to each species' needs. The council chamber was silent for a long time after the rescue ended. Then Admiral Corax asked the question that everyone was thinking. How many humans would it take to conquer a galaxy? Captain Chen's answer shocked every delegate present. Conquer? Why would we want to conquer it? We'd rather explore it, understand it, and become part of it. She gestured to the screen showing the rescued colonies. Those beings aren't our subjects or our allies. They're our teachers. Every species we meet makes humanity stronger and smarter. But surely, Admiral Corax pressed, humans must want to expand their territory. Build an empire? We are expanding, Chen replied. But not by taking space from others. We're expanding our understanding, our knowledge, our friendships, Ambassador Yillik spoke up, her crystal voice ringing with new respect. The human ship could have demanded payment for the rescue. Resources, territory, trade agreements. Why did you ask for nothing? Because we got everything we needed, Chen said. We learned crystal growing techniques that will help us build better ships. We learned atmospheric control that will let us explore gas giant planets. We learned quantum computing methods that will advance our technology by decades. She paused, looking around the chamber. When you share knowledge, everyone becomes richer. When you hoard it, everyone becomes poorer. The rescue had proven more than human capability. It had demonstrated a completely different approach to galactic civilization. Instead of competing for resources, humans sought to understand and cooperate. As news of the successful rescue spread across the galaxy, something unexpected began to happen. Other species started asking questions about the human approach. They wanted to know how one ship had succeeded where their fleets had failed. The mystery of humanity's single vessel was solved. But the solution had created a new mystery. How had one small species from a distant world developed such a radically different way of thinking about space exploration? And more importantly, what would happen if other species tried to learn from them? The galaxy was about to find out. 6 months had passed since the Helix Nebula rescue. The galaxy was a different place now. Captain Chen stood in the great chamber of the Galactic Council, but this time she wasn't defending humanity's right to belong. She was listening to something no one could have imagined 6 months ago. The Valkyrian Empire formally requests permission to redesign our fleet structure, Admiral Corax announced. The massive warrior looked uncomfortable asking for help, but his voice was firm. We want to build ships like the Endeavor. Around the chamber, similar requests came from dozens of species. The Crystal people wanted to learn adaptive architecture. The Technical Alliance asked for training in multi-species cooperation. Even the proud Aquatic Federation was willing to admit that bigger wasn't always better. Ambassador Thrain called for order. This council session is unlike any in our history. For the first time, we are not discussing trade routes or territorial disputes. We are discussing how to fundamentally change how we explore space. The change had begun immediately after the rescue. Within days, species across the galaxy started sending messages to the Endeavor. They didn't want to trade for resources or form military alliances. They wanted to learn. The Shalnari had been the first. Their crystal city had grown stronger and more beautiful after learning human techniques. They shared this knowledge with other crystal species, who then wanted to meet the humans who had made it possible. The anthropic gas beings had revolutionized atmospheric technology by combining their natural abilities with human engineering creativity. Suddenly, gas giant planets that had been impossible to explore became accessible to everyone. The Nexus Collective had begun teaching other artificial intelligences about human concepts like friendship and art. Machine cultures across the galaxy started producing poetry and music for the first time in their existence, but the real change was in how species work together. The old way isn't working anymore, admitted Commander Vex of the Aquatic Alliance. My people have thousands of ships, but we can barely explore our own star system effectively. Meanwhile, the humans are helping species we've never even heard of. Captain Chen nodded. The galaxy is full of wonders we haven't even imagined yet. But we'll never find them if we keep thinking of space as something to control instead of something to understand. She activated a hologram showing the current galactic map. Look at this. Hundreds of species, each staying in their own territories, each building bigger fleets to defend what they have. But nobody is really exploring anymore. The image changed to show ship movements over the past 6 months. Most species' fleets stayed close to home, moving in predictable patterns between known worlds. But the Endeavor's path was completely different. It wandered freely across the galaxy, visiting species that had never met each other before. Everywhere it went, new connections formed. The Kalari learned music from the Crystal People, Chen explained. The mountain folk shared mining techniques with the deep swimmers. Species that have been neighbors for centuries are finally talking to each other. Because you introduced them, Ambassador Yilix observed. Because we showed them it was possible, Chen corrected. Every species has something valuable to offer. Every culture has solved problems in unique ways. When we share that knowledge, everyone benefits. Admiral Korak shifted in his massive chair. But what about defense? What about protecting our territories? From what? Chen asked. The biggest threats in space aren't other species. They're natural disasters, resource shortages, and knowledge gaps. Things that are easier to solve when everyone works together. She had a point. The Helix Nebula rescue had shown that cooperation could accomplish things that military force never could. Since then, similar joint efforts had solved problems across the galaxy. Ambassador Thrain stood up. Captain Chen, the Council has been discussing a proposal. We want to create a new type of mission, multi-species exploration vessels, designed not for conquest or defense but for discovery and cooperation. The chamber buzzed with excitement. This was what many delegates had hoped to hear. We want the human ship to be the prototype for a new class of vessels, Thrain continued. Harmony-class explorers, each one crewed by multiple species designed to adapt to any situation. Captain Chen felt a surge of pride. How many ships are we talking about? 6 to start, Admiral Korak said. 1 for each major sector of the galaxy, each one crewed by volunteers from different species all working together. And the Endeavor? Chen asked. Would become the flagship, Ambassador Yilix said, her crystal voice ringing with excitement. The template that all others follow. Captain Chen looked around the chamber at hundreds of eager faces. 6 months ago, these same beings had questioned whether humans belonged in space at all. Now they wanted to learn from humanity's approach. There's something you need to understand, she said. Building ships like the Endeavor is the easy part. The hard part is changing how you think about exploration. She gestured to her crew, who had been quietly observing from the human section. These people aren't just trained to operate equipment. They're trained to see every new encounter as a chance to learn something. Every challenge as a puzzle to solve together. Every new species as a potential friend. Can that be taught? Asked Delegate Zenkar of the Spiral Confederation. To anyone willing to learn, Chen replied. But it means giving up the idea that your species is better than others. It means accepting that sometimes the best solution comes from someone completely different than you. The discussion continued for hours. Species after species volunteered crew members for the new Harmony-class ships. Engineers, scientists, artists, diplomats, and explorers, all willing to work together in ways that had never been tried before. As the session ended, Captain Chen made one final announcement. The Endeavour will begin its next mission tomorrow. We're heading to the Galactic Rim, where our long-range sensors have detected something unusual. What kind of something? Admiral Korax asked. Chen smiled. We don't know. That's what makes it exciting. 1 year later, the site had become common across the galaxy. Harmony-class ships with mixed crews exploring regions that had been ignored for centuries. Species that had been enemies for generations working side by side. Knowledge and friendship spreading faster than anyone had thought possible. The Endeavour itself had made the most incredible discovery of all. At the Galactic Rim, they had found evidence of an ancient civilization that had once connected the entire galaxy through peaceful exploration. The ruins told the story of a time when all species worked together to understand the universe. They did what we're trying to do, Dr. Kim reported from the archaeological site. They built a galactic community based on cooperation instead of competition. What happened to them? Captain Chen asked. They evolved beyond the need for physical form, the Nexus Collective representative explained. But they left these ruins as a message, a guide for future civilizations that might follow their path. As Captain Chen recorded her final log entry for this mission, she looked out at the stars. Somewhere among them, 6 Harmony-class ships were exploring new worlds, making new friends, solving new problems together. Today we learned that the best way to explore infinity isn't with 1,000 ships, but with 1,000 friends, she said into the recorder. The mystery that shocked the galaxy, humanity's single ship, became the inspiration for a new era of galactic cooperation. She paused, watching a shuttle launch from the Endeavour toward a newly discovered world where 3 different species were working together to establish the galaxy's first truly integrated colony. Earth sent out 1 ship to represent humanity, she continued. But what came back was something bigger. A galaxy where every species can contribute their best gifts to the endless adventure of exploration. The mystery was solved. Humanity's weakness had become the galaxy's greatest strength. And in the infinite darkness between the stars, new lights were shining brighter than ever before.